All right, so I will be going over like reflecting on my development as a listener and a collaborative leader. And I'll be going over like some of my areas of strength and how I've developed over this last semester. All right. So first off, as a collaborative leader, I feel like I've excelled in empathy. So I have a quote. Displaying empathy requires placing a high value on emotions and being emotionally in tune with others. So looking at like my personal life, I love kickboxing and I've been doing it for about a year. And it's important to demonstrate empathy to some of like my newer training partners because a lot of people will get frustrated when they first come into the gym and they'll be frustrated at their development. They just won't be able to get things. And I feel like I can compare that to like my own experiences developing. And it can really be frustrating when, someone's telling you to do something and you can't deliver on that. So understanding like where they're coming from and their perspective is very important. It's allowed me to like really build a good amount of trust and camaraderie with the people that I train with. And by understanding the emotions and perspectives of people that I train with, I can reassure them and make them feel welcome, even though they're not necessarily as skilled. And this environment can seem like it's overwhelming and very like intimidating. Um, so empathy really is important for development and just, sticking with that hobby, I would say. All right, so effective communication as a collaborative leader. I have another quote. When communication is reciprocal in nature and team members recognize that listening is just as important, if not more important than speaking, teams become stronger. So communication to me is broken down into two parts. So there's listening and speaking, but the more important part is listening, active listening. Uh, and in my own experiences, in my clinicals as a student nurse, I've been able to better communicate with the people that I work with. Um, and, this basically looks like there's a lot of team members, more than like a lot of people realize. So it's essential to like hear what everybody is saying and get a feeling of like all those moving parts and, to listen before you speak and get an understanding of, what's going on here, what's the bigger picture. And I believe that, effective communication goes hand in hand with like the safety of a patient because in a lot of cases, with like patient safety errors, one of the missing components was effective communication. Someone said something and no one listened, no one had like open ears, and someone ends up getting hurt. So this is like very important and something I was very glad to further develop this semester. Adaptability, another important thing as a collaborative leader. Adaptability enables a leader to be open to others' ideas and adapt to the challenges created by said ideas. So I feel like I've grown in this area as I've learned to consider all possibilities presented by my peers in, my nursing school clinicals. Even when I don't agree necessarily with what the other person is saying, um, regarding the care of a patient, it's very important to consider what the other person is saying because you can get a new perspective. And a lot of the times, in my own experience, someone else sees one thing that I'm missing, and it kind of adds to a collective understanding, and it can lead to a better outcome for the patient. It's also important to be adaptable because, the condition of patients are always there, it's ever changing, and something can go wrong that you would never expect to go wrong. So it's important to like consider and rule out all the possibilities so that we can keep everybody safe and healthy. All right, now as an active listener, I've learned to give my full attention. And I know this like sounds kind of cliche, but better listen. I have a quote: "Better listening doesn't start with a set of techniques. It starts with making a sincere effort to pay attention." And I've learned that to pay full attention to another person, I have to eliminate all other distractions. So that looks like putting away my phone and just not consciously focusing on myself or my own personal problems. In my experience with like the patients I've seen, I've learned that you need to give them time to share their story and their own personal experiences because they really appreciate when someone makes the effort to listen to them and they can always tell. Um, it's helped me to like really build better relationships with the people that I've had the responsibility of taking care of. And I've just been able to, get a better insight as to like where they're coming from, their perspective, and like how I can help them with, whatever they're going through. Um, Open-mindedness as an active listener. So I have another quote. The past is alive in memory and it runs our lives more than we know. Um, as a student nurse, I have met many people with substance use disorders, and keeping an open mind while listening to them has helped me to provide more passionate care. I think a lot of times people will assume that they made all these choices. However, it's a lot of people leave out the fact that life is unfair and the circumstances of our lives or of the lives of these people can often be unfair. They've been dealt an unfair hand of cards. Um, and I feel like the danger of not keeping an open mind is that the concerns that these patients might have are minimized because they're often written off as being drug seeking or difficult. So we have to keep an open mind and listen to their concerns despite their struggles with substance abuse. Um, and just in general, just listening and refraining from judgment is essential to providing the highest quality of care. Because again, we can't judge another person because we don't know their lives. We don't know what they've had to go through or the struggles that they've had to face. All right. And then last but not least, emotional control as an active listener. So instead of agreeing, I have a quote, another quote here. Instead of agreeing or disagreeing, invite the questioner to say more. So in my own experience, I've seen many patients that were rude and mean to me. But I have to consider first that these patients are going through the worst days of their lives. So it's more or less fair that they're responding in this way. Um, Rather than reacting emotionally to the rude or insensitive comments, it's important to respond calmly and further inquire as to why they're reacting emotionally. For example, something that I've said before and that I'll probably say again is, it sounds like you're feeling upset about the or about whatever, they might be complaining or insulting you about. And you can inquire, can you please like tell me what's going on? Why do you feel this way? And a lot of the times I've found that people will have these problems that they don't voice to anybody else because nobody's asking, like, hey, what's going on? And, no matter what it is, it might be that they're in an excessive amount of pain, which I would be upset too, or they might, need help with childcare, or they might need someone to let their dog out. So, as a nurse, I can help fix these problems. There's people I can call. And, by just asking or by inviting the questioner to say more, I can better help them. Um, and that wraps up this presentation. Here are my references. Thank you and have a good one.